Good morning, I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you. Going to spend some time talking to you about you and your business. We got a new contributor on the Price of Business that I'm really excited about. Going to talk about an issue that's always very crucial here in everywhere, wherever business exists, which is labor law. And he was a recent guest on the program. We hit it off really well. I liked what he had to share and was delighted to get Hessam Parzivand as a contributor on the show. How are you today, sir?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Glad to have you. I'm doing great, and glad to have you on the program. And I love the topics that you brought for us to kick off your first segment as a contributor on the Price of Business. But before you do that, kind of give us a little bit of your elevator speech for the listener to learn a little bit more about you, and also go ahead and give your website as well.
Okay, I'm a labor and employment attorney. I also have a certification in human resources. I originally graduated from LSU in human resources before going to law school. I practice labor and employment law both on the plaintiff and defense side, and kind of having seen it from all perspectives. I really enjoy the practice of law, and obviously a lot of interesting issues.
Yeah, very good. And your website?
Oh, it's parzfirm.com.
parzfirm.com. You got two great topics. Why don't you start with the first one? And if we're lucky, if we have enough time, we'll get to the second one, because both of them could take a whole segment.
That's true. Well, the first one, obviously, probably everybody is a little tired about hearing about the weather. But the first one is, do employees have to be paid if the office or work sites are closed due to bad weather? And it actually, as every lawyer question is, it is a it depends question. Hourly employees.
Yeah, if it didn't depend, you wouldn't need a lawyer.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what keeps me in business, and no doubt about that. So obviously, hourly employees, they don't have to be paid if they don't go to work. Watch out for situations where maybe an employee is in custody of a company car and may have to guard it, because of flooding or whatever it may be. Let's say an employee stranded in protecting a company car. Obviously, they would have to be paid for that situation. But exempt employees are employees who are classified as overtime exempt and paid a salary. Those guys actually do have to be paid, and they cannot be docked they cannot have their pay docked, I should say, for missing work due to weather-related conditions. Now, you can take away their vacation, but you cannot take away their pay.
Okay. Now, how would their vacation be connected to something like this, or would it?
Well, I mean, the employer can force them to take a vacation day or put them in the hole on their vacation days. So let's say an employee doesn't have vacation days at all, then the employer could say, well, you're at -1 on your vacation days, and you'll accumulate them.
So this is one of those examples that you talked about the first time you were on the show, why an employer handbook is so important, or an employee handbook, rather, is so important. Because this is stuff that you could even address in that handbook. It's explicitly, perfectly clear, and you don't just have one. You make them sign it even if they don't read it. You can't force them to read it, but you can hold the employee accountable for them by making them sign it.
Right, and actually in this particular situation, it's very, very important, because if an employer falls afoul of these laws, what is implicated is the salary basis, which allows them to be exempt from overtime. And actually, a good employee handbook should have safe harbor provisions, which indicate that if an improper deduction occurs, basically you can take it back.
Oh, that's interesting. So, but, I imagine that you're going to hear a lot of stories regarding controversy regarding the floods and the employment situation.
Oh, I think so. I mean, usually people won't call on something as simple as, I didn't get paid for this day or that day or whatever it may be. But it is an issue that comes up, and obviously businesses need to be aware of what the law is.
Yeah. The other story related to Uber, and for many of us here in the Houston area, instantly people are going to think, oh, was the guy accused of raping that woman? No, this is a different Uber story. And by the way, that same kind of issue can happen with a taxi company. It just, a bad judgment can happen no matter what the business model. But this is a different story regarding Uber that I think is very interesting. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, actually, as of yesterday, it's coming out. New York Times, Bloomburg, all of them have written articles about it. there was a ruling from the California Labor Commission saying that Uber had misclassified one of its independent contractor drivers as an employee. Now, that ruling only applied to that one driver, but the interesting question is, are they really independent contractors or employees? My bet, at least based on reviewing the case law, just full disclosure, I've been both on the plaintiff and defense side in independent contractor litigation. And my guess, based on reviewing the law in this jurisdiction, is that I do think that they are independent contractors. But it's not surprising that a more liberal jurisdiction such as California would find that they are not independent contractors and are in fact employees. And what was more surprising to me than the California Labor Commission's ruling is that the other state that has held that they are actually employees is Florida, which was ridiculously surprising. So far, the score for Uber, as far as I can tell from the articles I read, was 2-5, with California and Florida ruling against them that the workers were employees, and the other 5 states, including Texas, ruling for Uber.
I wonder how many of those are southern states besides Texas.
I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember the lists off the top of my head, but I do remember Texas was included. I think probably the majority view is going to be that they are independent contractors. I think maybe more liberal jurisdictions such as California,
Minnesota, New York.
Yeah, but I mean, it really is a question of how will our law evolve? Because you do have this blurred line now between teleworking. For example, if you have an office worker working in the office, teleworking, and let's say, working from home, teleworking, working whenever they want to, and they're working 30 hours a week for you. Well, you can make the arguments both ways and say, well, they're an employee, you control the how much they work, they have this many assignments, blah, 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 blah. But on the other hand, you can make the argument that they're an independent contractor. Oh, well, they work for X company and Y company as well as you. They're working from home. They're maintaining their own schedule. They're determining their own profit and loss. So, the line really does become blurred. And I think, within the next 15 to 20 years, I think you'll see a lot less use of office buildings, a lot more people, potentially working from home as the technology.
Oh, yeah, that's going to become the conventional model. People will be working together only because they have to.
But will they be classified as independent contractors working from home because they're doing 30 hours of work for one employer and 20 hours of work for another? Or will they be classified as employees?
Yeah, and by the way, that's another way you guys make money is blurred lines.
Yeah.
Someone's got to clean those lines up. So you said a particular employee, at least one employee, was considered an employee rather than a contract. Do you mean that literally or a type of employee?
Oh, no. They were, so obviously they were classified as an independent contractor, and the Labor Commission overturned that classification. Uber is currently
was that for one employee or for a group of employees?
No, just one employee. And another surprising.
And do you know why?
Basically, it seemed like, based on what I read, the ruling was based on the fact that this was integral to Uber's business, and that's a term or a condition that doesn't exist in Fifth Circuit law. As far as I've seen, the Department of Labor talks about it a little bit, but it doesn't exist in the court jurisdictions that I deal with personally.
Hessam Parzivand, he is a new contributor on The Price of Business. Give your website one more time.
It's parzfirm.com.
Very good visit with you today. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me on the program.
We went deep. We went a little longer because the content and topic was so good. By the way, check out his page over at priceofbusiness.com. This interview will also show up on the national news website, usdailyreview.com. And as always, thanks, Hessam.
Thank you for having me on the program.
You bet. When we come back, much more for you right here on The Price of Business.